at least better than it is right now. So, and that's just a difficult thing to get to. You know, I'd like to believe in happy endings, but I don't think there was there. And that's difficult for me.
And if we go to the question of whether you think it was worth it, with the sacrifices that you've made, you don't want to think about a man's future and where a man is now. Was it worth it?
For me, it was worth it. I learned a lot, you know. I think when you're in the military, my experience, when you're in the military and you go places that are dangerous and you have to confront your demons, you have to do them in a very, like, you go to bed at night and you think, I may not wake up in the morning. When I was in Iraq, we got rocketed all the time from Al-Qaeda, and we were in a tiny base that, not the tiniest, but it didn't have a wide cordon, and so rockets could very easily go over the perimeter. And there was one time when I was there that somebody got rocketed in their containerized housing unit there too. They went to sleep one night and they didn't wake up the next day because it got hit by a rocket. So I would go to bed there, and Afghanistan too, and say, well, you know, if I get up tomorrow morning, it's a good day. And you think about that danger ever presently, and you kind of have to get comfortable with it so that you can just live and enjoy life. I got to the point where in Afghanistan it felt normal. You know, I was away from my family, and that was horrible. But after a while I got to the point where I felt like every day was a new adventure. There was some new challenge to it, and I grew as a result. I became less concerned about death, because I was terrified before that point. I'm not a particularly religious person, so for me, what happens after I die is a big mystery, and I don't even want to speculate. But the idea that I'm not like an atheist, I don't believe there's nothing, but I just don't know. It's the unknown. So I became comfortable with death. I became comfortable with the idea that every day was worth something. And I came back from that experience just deeply appreciative for any experience I could have with my family, with my friends, some new place I could go. So I grew as a person. So to answer your question, for me, it was worth it on a personal level because I came back a much stronger, resilient person. I came back understanding at least a little bit better a culture that I had always seen in the movies and books. You know, I never thought I would go to Afghanistan. And I just deeply admired the people there. I found myself really appreciative for the fact that I got to know some of them very well. And for that, I feel like I'm a better person. And the other part of it too is, you know, sometimes you see things you can't unsee. You know, you see poverty on a level that you've never seen before, and you come back from it having grown a bit because you think, as bad as things could be, I'm not there. You know, I'm not having to deal with what they're dealing with, and I'm not trying to be glib by saying that. I feel like you come back way more appreciative than you maybe were before. And so for me, I just feel like the whole experience made me a better version of myself. In saying that, I hate situations where you spend a lot of your time trying to make something better, and then looking back on it, realize that even though you did, it wasn't better. Or maybe it was better, but now it's not better. And that's the thing I have the hardest time with right now. So to answer, was it worth it? For me, it was worth it, but I wanted it to be worth it for other people, you know? And I wanted it to be worth it for Afghanistan. As much as that sounds like I'm a Hallmark greeting card, I really wanted them to be happier as a country and safe, because I have a daughter, you know? I have a daughter who's now grown, and I went there confronted with the fact that for Afghan women and for girls, they had such a horrible time with it. And when I was there, I made every effort to go to like the Afghan bazaars where women would be promoting their craft, and it was all going back into education. And I really deeply believed in that, because I thought, what if that was my daughter? What if that was my wife? You know, I would want them to have a better opportunity. So for me, I just, you know, I felt like all of that stuff was starting to churn the right direction, and things were going right. And now I just, yeah, I do wonder, you know, if they will ever get back to where they even were 10 years ago. And you know, I feel like at the time I had a hand in making it better, but it didn't go better after that. So it does feel a little bit like it's a lost bit of time. But I think how I'm trying to take it now is, as much as I think it sucks that that happened, I know that it mattered to the people that I talked to when I was there. And I take some solace in that it mattered at that time. And, you know, maybe once you've tasted the freedom bug, or you've tasted some aspect of something better, you can't remove that from your brain. You can try to drive it out of people, but, you know, once people know what something else looks like or feels like or tastes like or whatever, it's hard to get that out of their head. And I have to believe that those people will be suppressed by the Taliban and others, but they are irrevocably changed in a positive light. They just have to have the right variables in there to get back to that, get back on the same path. So that's where I am.
Thank you for joining us on the Fall of Kabul, a soldier's story. For more episodes and in-depth exploration, visit us on YouTube and on podcast streaming platforms.